Yeah, it's such a weird assortment of characters. You have a bear who's yellow, and then you have a pig, a kangaroo, a fucking donkey,
An owl.
an owl,
Who's wise.
and then a little human boy. Like, what the fuck?
Not only a donkey, but a very depressed donkey. Like, what?
I mean, if I was a donkey, I'd be pretty depressed too, to be honest.
Yeah, because, like, you're not quite a horse. Like, you don't have that kind of, like,
Yeah, you're not majestic.
pizzazz about you. But then you're also not, like, a pony. Like, and ponies are, like, adored by, like, people. You're kind of just in the middle, and it's just, like, you're kind of, like, I don't know. You might say they're treated like an ass.
Yeah, they're called asses. Like, why? Like, why would you ever be happy with that? Like, yeah, I'm an ass. Like,
Yeah. Total ass.
I get Eeyore, man. I get him. I understand it.
The feels,
The feels, man. Yeah. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a old open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Hey, hey! It's 3 weeks late, but we don't give a shit. It's 2019, first episode of 2019. I'm Josh Ferguson, joined by Connor Bryant. This is the Talking Music Podcast where we, you guessed it, talk about music. How are you doing, Connor?
They're very, very good. Excited for this monstrosity of an episode.
Oh, the culture clash today is blowing up the Richter scale right now. It's off the charts.
I'd like to say it's your fault.
It's not my fault. No, it's not. No. I'd say it's your fault, actually.
Well, I recommended my album first, so you could have based yours off my recommendation.
No, I decided my recommendation way before we recorded that episode.
To be fair, mine was kind of on the day, but still, I'm still blaming you.
No, I'm blaming you. You want to know why? Because little 10-year-old you wanted to listen to The Feeling, and you bought that CD, and then 10 years, 12 years later, you made me listen to it.
You really had to get revenge on me,
I did. It's not really revenge, actually, but I don't know why I'm phrasing it like it's revenge, because High School Musical 2 soundtrack is a bop. It's a treasure, if anything. So I was doing you a favour by recommending that soundtrack.
Sure. A favour. I mean...
Mate, come on. Calm the fuck on. You can't say, oh, I'm such a fun, happy-go-lucky guy, when you... and then rag on the High School Musical 2 soundtrack. That is impossible, man.
Look, I'm not going to rag on it.
Okay, well...
Okay, well...
Do we start
Are we going straight for it?
I don't know. It's like, I want to save it for later. Like, this is the main event, you know?
You know what? All right. Sorry, listeners. You got to listen to us talk about spiritual healing first.
Sorry to cut your dicks off, guys, but, like...
Yeah.
You need to stay tuned to get the meat.
Got something to look forward to now.
Exactly.
Not that I think that spiritual healing is something to not look forward to. But actually, to be fair, I'm very, very interested in your thoughts on this.
I was severely disappointed by this album. Severely. Fair. Yeah. This is so weak.
Do you really think so?
Incredibly weak. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you some context, right? So, I love Scream Bloody Gore. I love Leprosy. I fucking love Human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are just such blood-soaked, heavy, pummeling records for their time.
Have you listened to any others? Have you listened to Symbolic?
I've listened to Symbolic, which is also pretty good.
But
I do prefer the earlier stuff where it's just like thrash and bash.
Yeah.
I prefer that stuff.
Really heavy stuff.
And yeah, like it just opened my eyes up to more extreme forms of metal, and especially death metal. I've never been the biggest death metal fan out there because it just, for me, the longest time has been like, like it's just like, you know, Cookie Monster shit. But death really opened up my eyes up to it. Through Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy and so on and so forth. And I put Spiritual Healing off for so long, despite having listened to those other records, for a few reasons. One, because everyone said it was the weakest album by Death. And two, the really awful album cover. The album cover is wank.
It is
so bad.
It's funny though. Like
it's funny, and I think it's actually a perfect metaphor for this album.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's strange because the artist who did the cover art for Spiritual Healing also did the cover art for Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy, and those album covers are fantastic.
They are.
So I don't know what happened. Like, what changed between those albums and this one?
See, I don't think it's necessarily like it's not an awful bit of art. I think it's just it's ridiculous. Like it's like the Christian guy like trying to heal a disabled man or like something.
Then you have some heretics in the background.
It's the colors as well that they're just not. They're not good.
No, they're not
at all.
But yeah, this is my point. This is why the cover art is a good metaphor for my thoughts on this album. So basically, everything's in place, and the band on this album are trying to sound more meaningful, more purposeful, and trying to work in more political statements into their lyrics. Yep. Which is shown on the album cover through that like evangelist character on the cover. But despite trying to appear more political and to appear more substantive, everything on this album is such a C+ effort and very try-hard and incredibly trite. There are some moments on the album which I will point to where the statements made are so shallow and edgy for the sake of being edgy. They're very surface level, yeah. And there are just some moments where I don't even agree with what they're saying because it's just so not well developed. Like the thoughts and statements aren't developed enough to be interesting. It's just, virtue signaling, basically. So from a lyrical standpoint, I don't give a shit. And then you have the instrumentation of it, which Death should excel at, because they have on Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy, but they don't. Everything sounds flaccid. Everything sounds pale. And there's nothing memorable about the guitar playing or the drum playing or anything.
See, I disagree there. I think there's some really, really good moments, and like the solo and the technical playing on here is still amazing from like Chuck Schuldner's end.
Yeah, it's well played. Yeah, it sounds like it just sounds really distant. I think the production is so flat, and
so
I actually did re-listen to Leprosy after I listened to Spiritual Healing for like the fourth time.
Good. Yeah.
And it's night and day difference. Like the drums on, say, Pull the Plug are just relentless. Like pull the plug. And Chuck's vocals as well are way more animalistic and primal. Here on Spiritual Healing, it kind of just sounds like he's ranting, but with like a really raspy voice he's had from a cold. It's just like the beginning of the end. It sounds like he doesn't give a shit, which is unfortunate.
So I think this album to me sits in a really weird place in their discography. Like, and I think that's why it's like a bridge album, and this is probably why it's seen as like their weakest. Is when you look at like the beginning and the end of Death, there's this like very, very clear arc from moving towards being the forefathers of death metal and like creating that sound of the really heavy chugging guitar and the growled vocals, moving all the way to like fucking the sound of Perseverance, which is which kind of like kicked off like the prog metal sound. And so like there's this clear arc, and this album sits like very, very much dead on in the middle, where on one side you've got Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy, which are straight up death metal records, and they're so heavy in their guitar tones, so heavy and guttural in their voices. And everything, all the stories are about gore or horror things, like and is like that kind of provocative statement that I think that Chuck was always trying to make. And the thing is about Chuck is that he never like when it came to the gory stuff is that he never like was he saw it as like creating music like a horror film. It's like it's there for entertainment purposes. And I think when it came to Spiritual Healing is that he actually wanted to have a message or something behind it, but it was the first time he had done it, and therefore it kind of it's very, very surface level.
Yes.
And then past this album, you get all the progressive stuff. So you start with like human, and then like individual thought patterns, symbolic, and then sounds. And so they eventually move into that progressive thing. So this just weirdly sits in the middle as not being that heavy death material, and doesn't sit with the progressive stuff that they started on human, and just kind of sits idly on its own, trying to work out what it wants to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why.
But... yeah, like I'd say the album has the right to exist for that reason. You know, I think without this album, you wouldn't have human, symbolic, individual thought bands. You wouldn't have those albums if it wasn't for spiritual healing. It was a necessary, like, transitional point. It was necessary to like rip the bandage off and just like break the bone and refix it. You know. But that doesn't justify this album like being bad. You know what I mean? It's still a bad album, in my opinion.
I do not think it's bad at all. Like, I mean, to me, the two standout tracks are the first one. So, Living Monstrosity, I really like, and Spiritual Healing as a track is really good as well. Especially, I love the chorus with like just as like the drums come in with the
and like practice what you preach.
Yeah, like that is like classic death stuff. But I like Genetic Reconstruction as well, but then I just think
I hated that song.
Do you not?
Hated it,
really?
Because that is to me the antithesis of Chuck's very shallow observations he's making on this album. So the song is a critique of genetic manipulation and restructuring DNA and genes to eliminate and fix genetic defects and illnesses and all this kind of thing. And Chuck's argument is that, it's not natural. We're interfering with nature. We're going to become machines and we're going to be overtaken by science and technology because, we're playing God, basically. Which is a fair argument to make. The problem being is that the way Chuck phrases it in his lyrics, it sounds as if he's against cutting out genetic defects through these methods. You know what I mean? Like, don't you want that? Don't you want genetic defects to not be a thing in the future? For those things to not be a thing in the future, we need genetic manipulation. It just needs to happen. We need science to help us through.
See, I took it more of like a stance on like plastic surgery and people being vain than I did like more about like medical problems.
Oh no, like there is like that explicit reference to removing fatal illnesses, genetic defects in the lyrics.
Oh right,
yeah. So it's literally about that.
I guess to play devil's advocate, because I'm not going to defend that. It's more about just like thinking about the context. Is that this was what 1990?
1991, I want to say. Something like that.
Okay,
yeah.
I got the Wikipedia says 1990.
Okay, close enough. Right. You and your Wikipedia.
I know. Have to have it up just for the track listing. But yeah. So 1990, and I mean, I wasn't even alive in 1990. I couldn't tell you what the times were like back then, but maybe this was an opinion that a lot of people shared, or...
Mate, I mean, I don't really read know. Of that time, it was very conservative, because you had, like, the Tipper Gore stuff going on with the dead Kennedys and Judas Priest, and all this other thing, but, like...
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I'd imagine it was very conservative back then. I guess they would think the same as Chuck on the song, like, oh yeah, we gotta play with the hand that God has given us and that kind of thing. We can't manipulate our bodies. We gotta be natural and organic. But like, if it means getting rid of cancer, like other genetic defects, then yes, give me science any day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's a strange one.
It's a strange one. Yeah.
But you are right. Like the lyrics are very surface.
They are very shallow. But other than that, other than like the problem that this is just a really shallow listen, just sonically, it's either really forgettable or it's really questionable. So on Low Life, which is by far the most brutal song of the album, is actually like. A song that going like, oh shit, that's actually heavy. But the more I thought about it, the more I listened to it, I realized there's actually like reverb on Chuck's vocals when he screams and howls.
There's a lot of weird vocal stuff
and
going
just,
on
like,
here.
it's so weird sounding. It's so distorted and warped, and it's just like what could have been primal and just guttural is just like sounding like it's going through a dishwasher, you know?
Yeah, because it's not even just reverb. It's kind of like this weird like hazing effect.
Yeah,
like
which is
where it
incredibly
sounds...
ironic. Which is incredibly ironic, considering on the next song, Genetic Reconstruction, he's like, "Oh no, we shouldn't allow technology to interfere with our lives. We need to be natural." And it's like it's so ironic.
There are lots of weird inconsistencies with this album, I'd say. Like, and like the thing is, for me, as I do really enjoy this album, and like to me, despite this album's flaws, like to me, I still think Death has one of the most perfect discographies in any metal band. Like,
yeah, sure,
from beginning to end, like it's just such a solid discography. So I still really like this album, but there's lots about it that is just kind of like it separates it like a sore thumb compared to the rest of them. And one of them, as much as I kind of do like the song, Killing Spree is more like it's off something like Leprosy or Scream Bloody Gore, because like all of these other tracks are like about something political or about something like to do with like human behavior, and then like Killing Spree just straight up is just it's a death metal track. Like,
yeah, pretty much. It's about like a mentally
really
ill
weird
kid that's gonna kill some people. You know, it's insane.
I know it's really, really strange how it just like obviously like they're trying to be introspective, and then they just like the last song they're just like let's just make a horror death metal track.
Like even then, like that, I do not remember what that song sounds like, and I've listened to it 4 times. You know, because it's just Death by the Numbers. You know, which would make a good book name or like a film name or something, like an Our House Cinema. Numbers. Yeah, Death by the Number. Yeah.
They already made that, didn't they, with Jim Carrey, number 23.
Oh shit! Yeah. Number 23. Classic.
That's what Jim Carrey's remembered for, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah, man. Yeah, forget Liar Liar and Ace Ventura. Like number 23 is the peak of his career.
Yeah, 100%. It's like peak Jim Carrey.
Peak Jim Carrey. Directed by Joel Schumacher.
Was it actually?
Yeah, man. Didn't you know that?
Oh no.
So yeah, and that's a good working relationship between actor and director. You know, they worked on Batman Forever together, and they worked on number 23 together.
Oh no, that's the best collaboration ever.
Better than Scorsese and De Niro. Better than Scorsese and DiCaprio. Better than
just Scorsese and everyone else you worked with. Back to the album, though.
Yeah, back to the album. Like, this is definitely the weakest Death album, but I'd go one step further and say this is also just a really weak metal album, because it does nothing. Like, it does nothing to tap into anything physical within me. It doesn't pummel me. It doesn't get my body moving. It doesn't do anything. It's just really flaccid and distant. It just sits in the background, which a metal album should not do, especially a death metal album. It should not just sit in the background. It really shouldn't.
It should be guttural, and it should be pummeling. And I guess, like, to me, it like... Yeah, coming off the back of, like, Leprosy as well, where, like, every track is just so fucking heavy. Yeah. And, like, there's a reason why that's my favorite Death record, because... as much as I love Human, and I love Sound of Perseverance, and I love all their prog stuff, but there's just something so about
it's just so
Leprosy.
Primal. Yeah,
it really
animalistic.
Is. But I guess you're kind of right. Like, this just sits in a weird area where it's not heavy enough or brutal enough to be like that, like attention grabbing.
Yeah,
but
and it's not interesting enough to stand on its own.
I still really like this album, and I think like when we were recommending each other albums, God, however long it was ago that we did this.
Ages ago now.
Like I used the literal term of like, because you said like I said like let's recommend good albums, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take that literally, because like I don't think this is great, I don't think it's fantastic, but I think it's good. But
I don't even think it's good.
Do you even think it's good?
No, it's not good. I think it's actually a bad album, to be honest.
Oof.
Because again, there's nothing that stuck with me. I've listened to it 4 times, and nothing has stuck with me. Nothing.
Yeah.
And the stuff that does stick with me for the wrong reasons. You know.
Yeah.
And it's a very frustrating listen. In all honesty,
yeah,
not as frustrating as the
especially
feeling.
from a band you like.
Yeah, especially from a band I like, and for a band with the legacy of death as well. You know, and for you said they have one of the most perfect discographies in metal, in music in general, I'd say, and I would agree with you if this album didn't exist, because this does bring it down a little bit. This does bring their discography down just a teeny tiny bit.
I've accidentally tainted your view of death.
I mean, yeah, inadvertently. So,
I did not expect you to have this much of a negative reaction towards it, though. To be fair,
I don't think it's the worst piece of music ever made. You can put it on the background; it's fine, but just it's not engaging. It's not a great listen. It's just so and so. In all honesty, I don't hate it. I just don't give a shit about it. I really don't.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I still think you need to listen to individual thought patterns and
I do.
Sound of Perseverance.
Yes, I do.
Very, very different albums. Very, very different albums.
But I'd imagine that they're more developed sounds than what's on display here.
Oh yeah. They're like way more proggy.
Right, good.
Way more
nice.
Like realized as well.
You can get my brain waves working. Like make me feel big brain boy with those proggy elements.
But you know what album made me not feel like a big brain boy?
What time is it? Summertime. It's suffocating. The time is it? Summertime. Hands up. Scream and shout. What time is it? Summertime.
Yep. High School Musical 2 soundtrack.
Everybody's on
soundtrack.
Talking at me. Everybody's trying to get in my head. Wanna listen to my own heartbeat.
Like,
did you ever? Did you?
So I have a feeling that this next 20 minutes of the section would be Josh just singing every single track.
This soundtrack bops. It's so good.
It really, really does not.
It fucking does.
Okay.
You do not know how to have fun. This is such
a
fun
I do.
soundtrack.
So this is the thing. Like, when I was listening to this, okay, and God knows, I really did not want to listen to this. This was such a struggle to put on, because at least with the album I was recommended with you, even if it didn't turn out so well, you know Death, you enjoy Death,
yeah.
So putting it on, you're probably just like, oh, cool, Death record, right?
Yeah.
There's no way that I could be excited to put on a fucking High School Musical soundtrack.
Well, how come?
There's just no way.
Explain yourself. How come?
Because it's like the wrong demographic completely, dude.
It transcends time and space.
9 or
what are you on about?
No. So I put it on, and it took me quite a bit of effort to do so. And sure, it's an easy listen. You can have it on, and I won't deny this. Everything about it is super, super catchy. Whoever wrote it, whoever sat in the studio and wrote it, knew how to manipulate people, knew how to manipulate very, very young, impressionable minds. Because this thing, I was very, very impressed with how well I remembered so many of the tracks off this thing.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you how every single song goes, but I could last week I could list off fucking 8 of the tracks just off the top of my head.
10 of them. So that's a good start.
But I think it's because all of their choruses are literally the song names.
I mean,
so
that's the case
on
most pop
it,
music, though.
Suddenly
so
the chorus is there. Well, no, true, but it's just so. Yes, it's bad.
No,
I'm just going to get that out of the way.
No, you do not know how to have
So
fun.
it starts off with Fabulous, and this was the moment I realised that none of these people can sing. They just cannot sing.
No, right. I will defend this.
Ashley Tisdale.
Yeah.
Cannot sing.
I will defend her. She cannot sing. I will agree with that.
Yeah.
But the point of the song is to get across her character as this vain, manipulative, bitch. And she does that. There's so much character and personality in the song. It's I want more. She gets so much character across, man.
Oh, God. And right from the first song, though, right?
What time is it?
Presented my worst fear and the theme, I would say, with the rest of the soundtrack, and that is key changes. Like, I do not understand how I didn't see this coming, but like literally every song has that key change, that really stereotypical pop key change where they start in like one key and they go throughout the entire song, and then it's on that final chorus, it will just go up by a key, and it will just sound that little bit different, and it does it on every track.
Again,
and it drove me insane. That's
just general pop song progression. No, it's not just the soundtrack. That is just like
it's so infuriating though.
Why?
Like but that's not an excuse though, Josh.
No, it's not an excuse. If
most bad pop music is doing it, that still means it's bad.
No. Well, first off, this is not bad pop music. I would say if it's catchy, and you sing along to it, and you have fun listening to it, I would say that's good.
But
pop
I
music.
wasn't.
Well, I'm speaking from experience, right? I have a fucking fantastic time listening to the soundtrack whenever I put it on, right? So that makes it good pop music in my book.
I seriously can't tell if you're joking. That's the great thing.
No, I do actually like it. Like, actually, bet on it. I do genuinely think it's a fantastic song. That is just a slap banger, right? It's so fun and energetic, and there's so much charisma and personality in all the songs. It's just a good soundtrack. Like,
I mean, I'll give you that. There's energy. You know, they're teenagers. They've got that energy, but
them down old kids with their energy and high octane pop music.
I literally getting past like the fact that they couldn't sing like was a real big one, because like even on like the ballads like "You Are the Music in Me," like it's just
that's cute as fuck.
Painful.
Cute as fuck, and it has layers.
You are the music in me.
It has layers because you have the ballad between Gabriella and Shrek. No, fuck off. Like you have Gabriella and Troy first performing "You Are the Music in Me" by a piano. You get a bit of drum here and there, but it's mainly a piano ballad, right? And then later on in the soundtrack, you get the Sharpay version, which is like high octane, high roller bowling, like energetic showcase, right? It's like a big rock anthem. It's like Elton John made it, right? And it adds layer to the ballad version because it shows you how special that relationship between Gabriella and Troy is, because the relationship between Sharpay and Troy is artificial, it's inauthentic, it's nothing compared to the relationship between Gabriella and Troy. It's so much more special, so much more sentimental.
I legit never thought I would hear anyone talk this like analytically about High School Musical.
You have to agree, there is effort put into this music. There is effort put into the movie.
Well, yeah, there's effort put into all music, but when that music turns out bad, I can't then excuse it.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Mate, I will. There is actually creativity across the soundtrack. Like, work this out. When it breaks down into like the work.
What when it
See,
does?
You're singing along
at the end.
You're singing along, mate.
That doesn't mean that it's good. There are loads of pop songs out there that are bad.
When the song breaks down, because like the scene is like when they're in the kitchen and they're complaining about, oh, why do I have to do this summer job? I don't want it. I want to go outside and have some fun. And then Zac Efron's like trying to convince him. It's like, no, we got to do the job. We got to get through this. We're going to work this out, right? And we can have fun doing it. And then,
inspiring.
But then they use their surroundings to create percussion, right? So they use kitchen spatulas, they use pepper grinders to create percussion. And it's actually, like, that's a creative use of the environment. That's what musicals should do, right? It's not just pop song after pop song after pop song, right? That's why Greatest Showman is awful, right? The soundtrack for that is wank.
I mean,
because it's just a pop song after pop song, right? But this actually has character. This actually has personality. This actually has quirky characteristics to it, which make it good.
Okay, like, I won't knock that reasoning. Like, because it's a musical, it's using its environment and everything like that. But then, like, but the songs, man. Like, okay, look, so maybe it just isn't bad, and maybe it's just because, like, I am just approaching this from the wrong
Yes, you are.
angle.
You're trying to approach this from, like, oh, the production's not so great, and, like, it's not a high piece of art. Like, yeah.
Because it's shit.
It's not... See, look, there you go. I've proven my point. You're looking at this from a musical analytical standpoint.
I forgot that when I listen to an album, I have to put on the brain of a fucking 12-year-old girl.
No, you don't have to. No, but like, I'm not saying you have to have like the Transformers mentality where people like in defense of that
just
movie,
got to turn your brain off.
You just got to turn your brain off to enjoy it. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you just ignore it as like you just ignore the process of how this music's made and just enjoy it for what it is, which very clearly knows what it is. It's so cheesy that it becomes charming. It knows exactly what it's trying to do.
I
appreciate it for that.
For me, it didn't breach past that cheesiness into charming. It just
really?
everything about it just like annoyed me. Like I think like
what? Hit it out of the park. I don't dance. I say you can. It's not a chance. No, I can do this well. You can do that, but I don't dance. Hit it out of the park. Chance.
Is that the one that says like
hey bada swing. I got to just do my thing. I mean, actually,
okay, that was look. It's really catchy. Okay, yeah. I'm not gonna.
There's a bit of jazz on that song as well.
It's really catchy, but I don't know, man. Like, if you're asking me whether I'd ever sit down and listen to this again with my own free will, then absolutely fucking not. Like, but it's not an excruciating listen where if I were to put it on, I'd be like, oh my god, this is painful to listen to. Like, turn it off. You know, it's not like a noise album or anything. It's quite the opposite.
High School Musical 2 is definitely not a Merzbow album for sure.
Well, I think that's where they're going for High School Musical 4 when that eventually drops. Like they do. They really hit a low point in their lives.
Gabriella's on heroin and like
yeah,
it's really into dark wave.
You know what? I want to see this happen.
Mate.
I want to see High School Musical like covering the Cure songs.
That actually be pretty neat.
But I can't get past the bad singing, the musical cliches with like the key changes and the kind of just I don't know the plot of this film. I know there's a summer vacation involved, but
so Sharpay hooks up Troy with a job at a golf course that like she kind of runs, her parents run it or something. But Troy invites all of his other mates at the school, right? Which annoys Sharpay because she invited him so that she can make a move on him, right? Because she has kind of like a crush on him right now, and she's very jealous of Gabriella, right? So they're all working a summer job, and there's a talent show as well. There has to be a talent show.
Of course there is.
Yeah, of course, right? Why else would you sing? And yeah, it's just like Sharpay trying to break up Troy and Gabriella. Is trying to make a move on him, and then Troy has these prospects of the future. Like he actually has scholarships. He's meeting new people that can hook him up with opportunities in the basketball industry and all this other stuff. But that means leaving your friends behind, and he has to wrestle with himself and what he wants to do. Whether it's friends are more important or his scholarships and his inauthentic friends are more important. So it's a decent plot.
You've made this sound like a compelling indie teen drama, but it's really not.
It kind of is. It defined a generation. That is indisputable.
I feel like the first one did though. Like
no, this is just an improvement on the first one. The first one, like I'll happily just like pass off. I'll shrug that off any day because it is very just like forgettable.
So there is a specific reason why you recommended the second one.
There is, right? Because it just improves on the formula of the first one so much. The first one, there are so many hit and miss songs, and the plot of the first one is really awkward, wank. It's not really interesting. The second one actually has heart. It actually has character, and every song on here is a banger.
Okay, right. So before you solidify that statement, can we quickly talk about one song?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether you're even gonna. So, are any of the characters in this film from Hawaii, or does Hawaii have anything to do with anything?
That song is trash. Yeah, I will agree with that. That is a trash
can
fucking song.
The kind of almost racism going on there, like
it's not right. No. So, do you know the scene where that is taken from?
No.
Okay, so what happens in that scene? Troy is on his way to meet Gabriella for a date, but Sharpay stops him, right? And she's like, "Oh, can you see my rehearsal for the talent show? This is what I'm planning for the talent show, right?" And obviously Ryan, her brother, is there with her.
Yeah.
And then they sit Troy down, and they perform like this Hawaiian musical play in front of him, like the story of like this pineapple queen or some bullshit. And it's like a mini stage production with like volcanoes and hula skirts and like surfboards and all this stupid shit.
Oh my god.
Troy's just sitting there like, what are you doing? I have a date. Can I just go? Can you leave me be, please? But like Sharpay's just trying to like get into his pants through the medium of song and dance.
What a way to put it for a children's film.
That's basically what she's doing, man. That's basically what she's doing.
Oh god. I mean, like, it was literally because like that is the last track on the soundtrack. I have zero context. I think I watched this film when I was a kid. Like, I think I legit got excited about this film when, like, because I was a classic Disney Channel kid. I loved Disney Channel when I was growing up.
So yeah,
I won't deny that.
Did you?
So I did watch this. I have seen it, but like I remembered none of it. So like listening to the soundtrack was totally out of context.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask you, like, did you actually like the film as a kid, and did you like the soundtrack as a kid?
I think I did. The soundtrack was never like something that I ever remembered.
No, you bet on it.
It like throughout time, and probably due to your influence as well, because you always would bring up certain tracks. Like I would remember it.
I love it.
I know you've sang it around me very many times, and it was one of those things where like everyone knows like what time is it. But then there were certain songs that I'd completely forgotten about. That when listening to this, I was just like, oh yeah, this song, like Fabulous, or like the I Don't Dance. Like I remember all of those as I was listening to them. But I had no context, like, because I couldn't remember what happened in the film at all. Like, I legit could not remember what happened in the film. So, listening to all of this, and then especially that last track where it's kind of sounds like they're taking the piss almost out of, like, Hawaiian culture, and I was sat there just like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? Also, I was just like, I so did not want this on my phone, so I listened to it off YouTube.
Fuck you. It's so... I don't even know what to think of that. Like, that's just... That's really sad, actually.
I know.
What is wrong with you? It's just...
What's wrong with me?
It's just a fun
what is
soundtrack.
wrong with me?
Like, why do you have to see it as like, this elite piece of art? Like, why?
It's not that I have to see it as a unique piece of art, because, and you know that, out of the two of us, I love pop music.
Exactly. This is why I'm so flabbergasted.
You criticise me all the time on liking Carly Rae Jepsen.
Because Carly Rae Jepsen is literally just like... It poses as like, oh, this is pop music for smart people, but like, it's not. It's just generic fucking bullshit.
I don't think it's generic, but I also don't see it as being like smart or anything. But like,
but the production is magnifique.
It's because it is. It's really good.
I'm proving my point right now.
And it doesn't do fucking key changes at the goddamn end of
you're proving my point.
Fucking song.
Proving my point, man.
I just found this hard to listen to with absolutely zero context to it. So
okay, fine. Like, I will give you that. The biggest flaw this soundtrack has is that it is a soundtrack. You need the accompaniment of the film. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But
I don't think I'm even alone in my feelings on this, Josh.
No, I do think you are. I legit think you are. There are so many diehard fans for the soundtrack. It's insane.
Really? Like,
yes.
What, that people that weren't just like fans of it as a kid? And,
I mean, yeah, you have those people, right? I mean, sure, if you ask a Merzbow fan what they think of the soundtrack, they'll turn a blind eye, right? But if you ask the right kind of person that grew up with this film...
You could say that about anything.
No, like... Yeah, sure, I'm not saying if you find a High School Musical 2 fan, you ask them what they think of it, then yeah, sure.
It's great. Shit, it's the worst one out of the trilogy.
Well, first, just for context, it's High School Musical 2, then High School Musical 3, then High School Musical 1. So that's the correct order. And second,
really? See, I never saw the third one.
The third one is the first one is just wank. Like the third one is actually like it's again, charming.
What?
It's not amazing.
It's an actual film though, because it was released in cinema. That's
like charming. It's like, oh my god.
That's why I never watched the third one though. Like obviously the first and the second one were on Disney Channel, so you sort of set it up in the evening, then you sat down, you're like, oh shit, like this is on, this is my jam.
Yeah.
And then the third one came out, and they're just like, sorry kids, cinema releases. And I was at that age at that point where it's just like, if I asked my parents to take me to a High School Musical 3 at the cinemas, like there ain't no way. Like
yeah, I was at that age too, but I saw it at a much later date. And it's a decent film. It's actually well made. There's actually some really good scenes in there, which I think you'll be impressed by.
Like some like long one takes. And,
there is literally like moving sets and shit. It's incredible. It's actually like really well made.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's really fucking well made, man.
I mean, that doesn't motivate me to watch it, but I'm impressed.
No, I will send you clips. Like you will be flabbergasted at like how much effort was put into that film. But anyway,
I'll take that.
What I'm saying before we got sidetracked. Is if you find the right person that may have the similar music tastes to us, in that we listen to a lot of like, Ponzi, fucking patrician bullshit music, right?
Yeah.
Sure. But also grew up on this film. If you just ask anyone in the street as well, you ask them, what are your thoughts on High School Musical 2? Specifically the soundtrack. They're like, yeah, it's a good soundtrack. I remember a lot from it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think it would be very, 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 very difficult to find a person that's like, ew, no, that's an awful film. That's a terrible soundtrack. Why would you even talk about that to me? Like, it's just incredibly difficult. Nigh on impossible to find someone that absolutely hates it.
Because I don't absolutely hate it. I just don't think it's good.
So you're saying it's bad though, yeah?
Well, I guess, yeah. On a technical
I think...
level, yes, I'm saying it's bad, but I'm not denying that it's not catchy.
Okay, well, fine. I'll take that in stride. I'll take that as a
win. So that's kind of my thoughts summed up on this. Like, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's good even, but like I can't deny that these songs are catchy, that they have hooks that are meant to stick. And I feel, but me being the cynic I am, like I did my dissertation on soundtracks. Like,
yeah,
a lot of these are built around to manipulate an audience. And especially with a film like this and the demographic that it has, it was there designed to be sticky so that kids didn't stop fucking singing it.
And it worked.
It worked.
It stuck with me for 12
don't
years.
Get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's an experiment that worked, but I don't know. I'm very cynical. I'm being very cynical on this.
Yeah, man.
But I don't know. I can't exactly say I enjoyed my time listening to it.
Honestly, like as much as I'm getting angry and like lambasting you for your thoughts on this album, I do actually feel sad that you feel that way, because like I wanted you to have a good time with this album. Like, it's such a feel good album, like so many sticky refrains, such like energy. As I've kept
really
hammering home, don't be sorry, but like I don't know, I'm just amazed that like you can't even find a little bit of hope in this music.
A little. Oh my god.
I'm wrenching that knife, aren't I? I'm wrenching it.
You really are. That's really funny though. It's really funny. Oh, okay. Well, that's my thoughts summed up. I don't think I have anything else to say about it.
Okay. Fine. So let's get into our recommendations. I'm recommending you High School Musical 3 soundtrack by various.
Oh, wonderful. Now that I'm excited for.
Why would you be excited for that?
Because it can only go up from here, can't it? It's the third one.
High School Musical 62. It's like, oh my fucking god, this is going to be a masterpiece.
They're like in their old age and they're just like shitting themselves. It's amazing. Anyway, would you like to recommend your album choice first?
Yeah, because I feel like I know what your album recommendation is going to be.
So I haven't been started with it. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll start with mine. So obviously it's been New Year, it's been Christmas. There's not much new music that's been released over the last month or so. So I've been catching up on a lot of old music I've been meaning to check out for absolutely ages. And one of those albums is an album I deeply fell in love with, and is an album I'm going to recommend you. So I had a feeling you were not going to like the High School Musical 2 soundtrack. And obviously you had to sit through Relapse by Eminem. Or Recovery, as you say, not Relapse.
Yeah.
You had to sit through Eminem. So, I'm going to recommend you something that is subjectively and objectively good. Like, I know for a fact you will have a good time listening to this album. I know damn well.
Go on.
And that album is Eureka by Jim O'Rourke. And
that's is that the one with the frog on the cover?
No, that's halfway to a three-way. That's an EP release, but this is the one with the big man baby thing. And it's a pink cover.
Oh, the pink cover.
It's a really grotesque cover, but it's really funny. And honestly, you look at that cover, you think, oh my god, what the fuck is this? What am I putting myself through? But it's actually a really sweet, gentle, beautiful little album that is just... It's so quaint.
I'm excited.
And yeah, it's just a really lovely album. Incredibly mournful, incredibly heartfelt. And a lot of experimentation too. There's a lot of interesting concepts and ideas being worked into the album. It's so well done. And
is it one of those albums that's kind of like really obscure and I won't be able to find it on Apple Music?
See, I don't know if it is on Apple Music. That's because it's on Drag City Records, and Drag City didn't upload their stuff to streaming services for the longest time. But they've started rolling out.
Drag City's on Apple Music now.
Yeah, they started rolling out albums on streaming services now, so it might be on there. But if
I'll
not,
have a look for it. If not, YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. I'll send you the files, what have you. It's pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
So,
okay, decent.
It's a really
I'm looking forward to that. Sick thing. Nice.
Right.
Well, keeping with that theme though, like you're right. January is a really good time to like catch up on albums that you haven't listened to. And every year, and you probably already know what I'm gonna recommend.
Yeah, but I follow you on Twitter, and I've seen all the screenshots.
Yeah, I know. Every year I fall in love with this band again and again because I always forget to check out certain ones of their albums, and then I can just not be bothered. And it was just time. It was time. On a technicality, this isn't an Animal Collective record. It's an Avi Tear and Panda Bear record.
How is an Animal Collective record? Like, you can't get out of that in a technicality. I guessed it right.
Spirit They've Gone, Spirit They've Vanished is so good and so wonderful. And I was thinking for a long time that I was going to recommend you Sung Tongs. And I still think you should check out that record because that is like an absolute favourite of mine. But
I've been meaning to check that record out. I can't be fucked for Spirit They've Gone though. I can't be fucked.
So it's a very, very... So essentially it's actually like an Avi Tear solo record with Panda Bear on drums.
Okay.
Which because it's retroactively been called an Animal Collective record, but it's just so good. I don't even know how to like put my thoughts together about it yet because it's experimental, but it's so quaint and it's so talking about like uplifting records. Like there's so much emotion in there, but like everything just feels beautiful about it. So I'm so excited to talk about it because I've just been listening to it absolutely non-stop, and yeah, I love it, I adore it, and I'm excited to actually get you to listen to it.
Okay, all right. So I mean, like I'm kind of indifferent towards going into it. Like I'll listen to it and I'll form thoughts on it.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. Because no, like I adore it, but I knew that like you might not be excited going into it, so it could go one of two ways.
Yeah,
but I'm really hoping it's going to go in the way of like you're like, oh shit, like, this is great.
I mean,
just don't expect.
Yeah,
like it's their first album, so don't expect like the production of like Merriweather.
No. I'm not expecting that. No. I mean, like, I go into every album expecting it to be, like, at least somewhat enjoyable, I don't want to hate an album. Like, I don't think anyone wants to hate an album, or anything, really.
So, what would be the point in anything like that? Like, if somebody wanted to hate something,
it's exactly.
Like, of course you're going to have a bad time. Like,
yeah, literally. Like it's like, what's the point?
So
yeah, like, I'm not dreading it, but, yeah, if I like it, I like it. Who knows? We'll find out on the next episode.
Oh god, there we go.
There we go. So that's your thoughts on High School Musical 2 summed up, and Those are my thoughts on death, spiritual healing. Tune in.
What an episode!
Yeah, a lot of fun, I'd say.
What an episode, Mark.
Shit.
Get well soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just recovering from a flu. Anyway, before I die, I'll end the episode.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
Tune in next week to find out our thoughts on Animal Collective / Shavy Tail and Panda Bears. Spirits, They've Gone. Is that the name of it? Spirit, They've Gone?
Yeah, Spirit, They've Gone, Spirit, They've Vanished.
That's it. Yeah, Spirits, They've Gone, Spirits, They've Vanished. And find out our thoughts on Jim O'Rourke's Eureka. If you would like to listen to those albums in preparation for next episode, that'd be grand. That'd be swelling. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, basically wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us there. Also listen to us on YouTube if you haven't already. And that's about it. I've been Josh Ferguson. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm joined with Connor Bryant. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, boy.
And yeah, tune in next week. It's been a pleasure. Do you want to say something?
That was an interesting one. Have a 2019.
Indeed. Have a 2019. Peace out.